it takes 3-4 hours for me to go to bed, even on quite strong medication. And although it was hard for me to get to sleep, it wasn't the thoughts, the negative thoughts in the past that were there. And probably I tried to get them there because they've been with me so long, and I couldn't get them there.
Okay. Now the odds are really high, Rich, that those thoughts you worked on just simply aren't going to be part of your intrusive thoughts anymore. Now if they come back, what that really means is that there is some piece of all that we haven't addressed in your thought process while we're doing the tapping, and something else comes up some other day and you get some intensity about it. You just need to tap again. But chances are, for those intrusive thoughts, it's pretty much behind you. That's our experience anyway.
I hope so.
Well, that's our experience with 80-90% of the people. That's probably conservative, once we've gotten it down.
Well, when I came in the door, I would figure if you could just give me 5% relief, it would be worth it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot higher than I thought possible.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something else, because I want to go through another thing or two with you while I have you. The other thing that we find is quite often when we take care of, well, let's put it this way. Let me ask you a question. How many, just estimate for me, how many intrusive thoughts do you think you have? How many scenes, how many events that happened in the Vietnam area do you think are contributing to your PTSD?
Well, actually, I think from day one right on through, because every day was a different event, and even if just being there and being around war. Although they're not in levels of 10, but I'm sure they're levels of 2 or 3. But there's quite a few of them at level 10. There's probably, 100.
Oh, 100?
I mean, I couldn't even count.
How many intrusive thoughts? Well, we dealt with 3 the other day.
Right.
Since then, how many intrusive thoughts have you dealt with on your own?
Yes, last night I dealt with 3 of them.
3 of them.
One was the firefight that I had just mentioned to Adrian, and the other 2 were probably in between a low thought like that and a high thought of seeing a village being slaughtered.
Okay, so that's 3 we dealt with before, and then 3 you did on your own, so that's 6 altogether. And you've gotten those down to a point where they seem to be behind you? Emotionally
I would say
speaking.
emotionally they're behind me. In fact, the first 3, it was very difficult for me even to get to think about last night, because I was trying to think about it, because I haven't been able to sleep for so many years, so I know this is just a routine I have to go through. I mean, I know I'm going to have to lie in the bed. I know I'm going to have to think about all these intrusive thoughts. And even though I couldn't get to sleep, it wasn't the intrusive thoughts that were stopping me. I think it was maybe the frustration that I couldn't get those intrusive thoughts back to the level that they normally are. They became part of my family, I guess, and it's maybe it's kind of hard for me to explain, but
it's kind of a habit, though.
It's exactly what it was. It was a habit, and I couldn't sleep last night, but it wasn't because of the intrusive thoughts. I'm laying there and I'm thinking, well, something's missing. It's kind of, it's like I can't figure it out, but I was not sleeping because I'm trying to figure out why I wasn't the same.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. So that you know, it is also our experience that if you have, and I think I sort of figured this out when you were talking, something like 100 tens.
Oh, there's hundreds and hundreds of events.
Okay, but if you have, let's just say a number of 100 tens, quite often you don't have to go through each and every one of those to eventually get relief on all of them. You've now done 3 with us, 3 on your own. If you did 1 every day or 2 every day from this point forward, after a while, typically, you only need to take care of 10 or 15, 20 maybe, and it sort of generalizes. You'll have a hard time finding the ones you haven't worked on, So I would like to spend a little more time with you on other ones that you haven't worked on yet. Let's do it right here. You have it now?
Yes.
Okay, and again, is it sort of like a short movie of 2 or 3 minutes, or?
It's only, it's about a minute movie.
Okay. So like we did before, what I'd like to have you do is to start telling us about it, but start before, something before the minute movie and build into it. The moment you get any intensity whatsoever, like a 2 or a 3 or something like that, I want you to just tell me immediately, and we'll start working with it. This is not a game of how much pain you can have. It's a game of how little pain you can have.
Well, okay. Actually, I was starting before, thinking before I came in here, and it was very difficult for me to get to a 10, even on some of my thoughts that would normally be a 10.
Okay, that's part of the generalization going on. Yeah. But you've got one you can get to a 10.
I can, well,
or as high as you can.
I could probably get to maybe a 6 or a 7.
And normally it would be a 10.
Yes.
Okay, but let's test it. I'd like to have you start telling the story, something before it began, and then build into it, and whatever intensity you get as you talk about it, you'll let me know.
Okay. While we... Let me think of a couple here. Okay, while we were in Cambodia, while the sun starts coming up, there's a fog that goes across the land, and you have to realize there was so many. They would go and destroy villages after villages. I guess we now believe they slaughtered in excess of 1 million people. A lot of
What's your intensity now when you say that?
Probably only about a 4 or 5.
Okay, but let's stop right there. Let's deal with that one, okay? You don't have to rub the sore spot for sore. Tap right here, okay? See, I accept myself even though I have this emotion.
I accept myself even though I have this emotion.
Over here, you might just give it a little tougher thump than you gave it. Okay. Okay. All right, tune back into where you were when you were like a 4 or whatever it was. Are you still a 4?
No.
And what had you said? You talked about slaughtering millions of people, I think were the words.
Well, over the length of a few years, we found out that they had killed so many people in the first...
So are you a 4 now?
0.
0, go ahead.
Initially, when it happened, I know that first week they slaughtered over 50,000 people, and it just seemed like everywhere we went there would be bodies all over the place.
And how does that feel when you remember those bodies?
I'm at a 0.
A 0? Okay, go ahead.
One of the incidents that I can remember was when the sun comes up, there's so much fog, and a lot of the bodies weren't buried, but some bodies were only put, just dirt would be piled on top of them, and it would always rain, and I'm probably going up to about a 4 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a particular scene you're seeing? Is the bodies?
Right.
Okay. All right. I accept myself.
I accept myself
even though I have this emotion about these bodies.
Even though I have this emotion about these bodies.
Okay, now as you remember those bodies, are you still was it a 4?
Yeah, I'm at a 0.
You're a 0. All right, go ahead.
And what would happen is that it would rain so hard, it would be so hard that you could hardly see in front of you. But in the morning, I can remember a light rain that would get underneath and wash the bodies and would push them right out of the ground. So it looked something like out of when you were a child and you were in a horror film.
How does that feel to say?
I feel all right.
Is it a 0, 1,
0?
It's a 0, okay, all right. What is it normally? Is that the intense part of the scene?
Seeing the body rise, yes.
Yeah, that's the intense part?
Right, the rain just gets underneath of it and washes it right out.
And it's a 0 emotionally for you?
Right now it is. Normally it's not.
Okay, normally it's a 10 or something?
Normally that would be a 10 thought.
Okay,
it would stop me from sleeping.
Yeah, and you have nightmares from time to time?
Yes.
How often? I forgot. You know before, but it slipped my mind.
Well, the thoughts are there every night. I mean, they're there every night.
Okay. And is that scene a part of your nightmares from time to time?
Yes.
Okay. How often do you have the nightmares?
Every night.
Do you have one last night?
No.
Night before?
Yes. No, I haven't had any last 2 nights. have to think now for a minute.
Well, okay, now this is important to recognize, though. If you haven't had a nightmare for the last 2 nights and you're used to having them every night, it was 2 nights ago you started doing the tapping, or 2 days ago. Okay, this scene that we were just doing, we've gotten to the intense part now?
Yes.
Okay. I want you to close your eyes, if you would, and I'd like you to mentally go through that entire scene, stopping at each one of the points where you had some emotional intensity. And I want you to literally try to get yourself intensive. I want you to imagine these things in the most vivid terms that you can. I want you to make an effort to get intense on each of those points and tell me where you get.
Zero.
On all of them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Chances are you're going to be 0 or close to it. I mean, chances are we've taken one more intrusive thought and put it in the bag. You will be interested to learn that I spoke with Rich 2 months after this session, and his height phobia still had not returned, his intrusive thoughts were all zeros, and his sleep at night expanded from an average of 4 hours per night to about 7. This is typical of these procedures, and the normal expectation is that the problems will not return. Adrian helps our next veteran, Ralph, get beyond a traumatic memory in a matter of minutes. He also has a past problem with cocaine, but has been drug-free for almost a year. After Adrian completes her part, I teach him how to neutralize all addictive cravings by using his desire for a cigarette.
You mentioned to me that you went over a cliff in a Jeep, was it?
Yeah.
If you bring that up into your mind, Ralph, can you get intense reliving that?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about that. Tell me a little bit about the story, and then I'm going to stop you. I don't want to cause you any pain because this process is really pain-free. But I want to have you get into it so that we can again measure the success of it. So tell me about what happened.
We were on maneuvers, and the maneuvers were ending, and we had to rendezvous on the beach to board a ship to go back to Okinawa. The field mechanics had tried to fix the brakes on this Jeep. I was in a 106 recoilless rifle platoon, and they had a 106 recoilless rifle mounted on top of the Jeep. I told the lieutenant that the brakes hadn't been fixed and we had no brakes on the vehicle. He told me that we had to get to the beach anyway. I said, sir, you're going to give me an order to drive this Jeep? He said, yes, that's an order. So he and I got in there. He was riding the passenger seat, had a gunner on the back. Going down a dirt road, had about a 90-degree left turn. As I went into the turn with that 106 rifle on top of the Jeep was top heavy and it began to slide.
Stop right there. On an intensity of a 0 to 10, how intense does that make you? How anxious?
About 7.
A 7. Okay, I'd like to work on that. So what we're working on now is you first realizing that something was going wrong.
Yeah.
Am I correct? I'd like you to rub that sore spot. Can you find that?
Right in here.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
All right, rub that, and while you're rubbing that, say, I accept myself even though I have this anxiety.
I accept myself even though I have this anxiety.
Baby finger, collarbone. Okay, let's stop. Has that anxiety, think about, you're just realizing that something's wrong, and you can feel it going top heavy. What's the anxiety? If it was a 7 before, what is it now?
It's reduced.
Down to?
I can talk about this without anxiety.
Without any anxiety?
It's reduced very much.
Is it to a 0?
Not quite to a 0.
All right, I'm going to do some more work on it. Have your eyes open, and baby finger, and collarbone. Okay. Is there anything there now? That's good. Any anxiety? No, you're laughing about it. No, is there...
This is amazing.
Okay, do you... Tell me...
Excuse me.
Okay.
I get a calming effect that runs through my body when I do this.
Do you?
Yeah.
Good, good. So you get a calming effect in the rest of your body. All right, let's go back to the... Tell me again, you're realizing let's pick the story up from there.
Well, the Jeep started sliding to the side of the road, and as it went to the side of the road, it hit a tree, bounced off the tree, and over into the air, over this cliff.
Let's stop there. Does that do, is there any?
Doesn't do anything.
Okay, go ahead.
This is really cool. Usually I talk about this, I tighten up in my stomach.
And you're not feeling any of that now?
I'm
Good.
not.
Wonderful.
Anyway, we went flying through the air, and the Jeep landed about the distance that we're sitting right now from landing on top of me. But I was buried in dirt.
Well, think about that. Does that do anything to you?
It doesn't do anything.
All right, go ahead.
It doesn't. This whole experience doesn't do anything now.
Is this the first time you've been